Hello again. Welcome to the Healthy Enterprise. If you're a return listener, then thank you so much for coming back. And if it's your first time, then welcome. My guest today is Sarah Bellenger. She's a clinician, Army veteran, and a healthcare leader who has spent over 2 decades navigating the intense demands of patient care. She is also the founder and CEO of Manage You, a mobile app that gives high-performing professionals like herself and healthcare teams one central place to store their most important documents, track their deadlines, and stay on top of renewals. Let's meet Sarah. Sarah, welcome. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Healthy Enterprise. I'm looking forward to getting to share your experience with starting your company. And so why don't you lead us off, introduce yourself and tell us about the Manage You app.
Thank you for having me, Heath. I've enjoyed getting to know you and the Healthy Enterprise podcast. I am a nurse, veteran, and an entrepreneur. I have spent 20 years in the U.S. Army, and then now I'm a nurse anesthetist. I've been a nurse for 25 years, and all of my time doing management and being in the military and all different types of health systems has exposed me to a bunch of different opportunities to make teams better. And so what I've done is created an app that will help teams and individuals be more efficient with their credentialing process. So that's after seeing all the waste of time and money that we put into the process, I developed the concept, and then found a team of developers in order to make sure that we had a product that was great for healthcare. So that's what I've done.
Amazing. And who's more qualified to come up with something like that than someone who has lived it, worked it, breathed it, hated it,
yes,
and understood it. Yeah.
Right. It's a $39 billion industry, credentialing is. And so that includes the education, all the state fees, association fees. I mean, it's just a huge, mammoth of a problem. And we spend so much time managing these pieces of paper. And so that's why I just couldn't ignore it any longer. I went to business school and figured out, hey, some of these things are in silos and we can do better. So just bridging the silos into, education, credentialing, administration, and making sure we're getting heard too.
Right. And I think you said the word paper. So some people are going, paper? What are you talking about, paper? And it's still, it's not a paperless environment, is it?
Not at all.
No.
Many hospitals, one I worked in last year, they still hand you a folder and say, okay, here's the cover sheets, fill in these pieces of paper.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the reason we went to an app first. And so I developed a phone app for 2 reasons. First was that the paper, you see a piece of paper when you get your nursing certificate, your diploma from college, your high school diploma, and you have to scan those. And so instead of making it a feature where you had to go find a scanner, we used a photography. You can scan it with your phone. Right. And then the second reason is all those pieces of paper, you always need them when you don't have them. So now you have those pieces of paper stored in one place.
Now, people who are in the know, who have lived your experience as well, understand this need for credentialing and need for having access to it. But maybe explain why would you need it at your hand, in your palm of your hands so often that you would have to go to this extent?
Mm-hmm. So you have papers expiring all of the time. Plus you're doing training throughout the day and the week in a hospital or even education units any time of the day. And so when you go to those trainings, usually people just wait to get a certificate emailed to them or sent to them. But now you're in control of having them when you need them or if somebody loses them. So that's one reason. The second reason is nobody has any, time that is this hour's when I'm going to get all my emails about my credentials expiring. And so the second reason is that you can now get those expirations sent right to your phone. And so you can do something about it right away. These pieces of paper and these credentials are connected to you and your professionalism and maintaining your job, but they're also connected to the hospital. So the hospital is responsible for you being credentialed appropriately. And so they need to ensure that's done. So say somebody audits you and they need your nursing diploma or they need your doctorate from your last school. They will be asking for that right away, and you need to be able to have those things. So sure, you can have a day or two, but all those days that are wasted could possibly mean expired documents and lost money.
Right. And you may be not necessarily even in your own country, for example, because it is for professionals that are traveling and working internationally, right? And there you are
So,
standing in a
yeah,
foreign country ready to work, and you don't have your credentials all ready to go, or you didn't know that they were
absolutely.
expiring. Wow.
Right, like mission work. We have many nurses from other countries, many physicians from other countries in America, Canada, India, the Philippines, all of this. And now you can have these documents readily available at your fingertips. And mission work is another great one. You need to get credentialed before you go, but usually you go to a staging area first.
Hmm. Hmm. And this really puts the ownership on the individual and allows them to have control over these documents and keeping them up to date, right? Yeah, that's brilliant.
Correct.
So did you have a couple of experiences where you personally ran into where that was a roadblock?
Sure. I started having these experiences in about 2002. I was running a unit and one of the nurses' license expired. And so I had to work for him for 2 months. So it was, 2002, and I was in Hawaii working, and there was no internet to send us a
No.
nursing certificate. So yeah, that's fine. I love working, I love my job, but, now we have less people to cover shifts. That would be one example. Definitely recently had a physician that I had to send to Saturday morning CPR so that he could work on Monday. Um, Many times we've had people looking for education certificates, CPR, ACLS, where they're labeled differently coming from a company in their email. And so they can't find their certificate to send to the education office because it's, say, numbered 172AK, right?
Right.
It's not always labeled with what you would think it's labeled.
Right.
And so, or somebody that didn't teach the class sends it to you. So there have been many incidents of that. Of course, sitting in credentialing offices for Joint Commission or for a credentials review for CMS or Medicare, those happen too. And so you have to go find people's diplomas, etc. And then the final example is a very personal one. I lost my anesthesia degree right after COVID started. And so, of course, I found it 2 weeks after it finally arrived, but that was 6 weeks later. And so
Oh, wow.
that's a very expensive thing to lose. But after being in the military, I had moved 10 times and it was stuck in a box.
Right.
And so I paid for another one, got it later, and just really reflected upon that to say, I need to make sure I get this app going. That was the moment when I really said, this is the time.
That was the day you woke up and said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and start my own business.
Oh, healthcare and entrepreneur are just, it's been a very surprisingly tough trail. Of course, we know, but we're also seasoned in being strong and having grit. And,
Persistence.
we'd come through COVID. I was a nurse manager of an anesthesia group during COVID.
Wow.
We were, yeah, but this is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard on, for very different reasons.
Yeah, share a few. Like hard in the sense, I mean, you're also talking about a technology. You're talking about working in a system that's very old and set in its ways. What other examples are you thinking of?
Sure. Um, Things that have been surprising are uh, reaching out to people. We all say everyone's so connected with social media and email and all of these different modes, but really it's so much harder to explain to people what the app does or how it does, because people, have a 7-second attention span
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And explaining the app is very simple with intention, but 7 seconds is very quick. So they that has been, you know, um, I guess it's called, marketing to my peers has been difficult.
Hmm.
Um, Getting the app out, of course, the development part and learning how that all works is what has been exciting to learn.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, why aren't we doing this yet? That's been more of the opportunity for and surprise there. Um, I have lots of great ideas, and the other thing is, of course, they're expensive,
Right.
and you can't do them all at once, and you have to have a list and a priority of how you're going to do it. And that's great for anesthesia people because it's pretty sequential. You're not usually doing 20 things at once, but it's clear what has to come first. So that has helped. Um, I have been pleasantly surprised by all the support of my colleagues and fellow teammates, and that's been nice as they've learned along with me.
And so where is the app now? What stage are you in development?
Mm-hmm. So we're fully developed, and we have spent a year testing with our customers. And so the app is in both app stores, so Apple and Google Play and Apple App Store. And you can use it for 2 free documents and then get a subscription. Now, what we've done is in recent months, we have expanded it so that hospitals and small groups can get the app to share with their team. So we're branching into credentialing offices and administrative teams, sharing the app to get the documents more quickly so that those providers can then start working more
Right.
quickly. Because we all know that there's plenty of open positions to the left and the right of you, or when you're taking call at 2 a.m. and you're thinking, oh gosh, I wish that I could have another person here, to the tune of thousands of dollars a day that are lost in billing because we don't have the ability to run rooms or keep beds open in a hospital for nurses. So the app is all set, and it's helping teams across the country and around the world. We have some users in the Philippines and Germany. One person interested in Dubai for his group. So it's kind of all over the world.
Well, that's great. So global. It's everybody, everyone has access to it then. So there's no
Mm-hmm.
really limitations as to where you live or work or play. You can have access to that app. That's great. And initial feedback's been good. You've had some positive responses, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm. We've had a great responses, and then plenty of, hey, I want it to do this or I want it to do that. And
Right.
um, our top requests are usually security, and the app is as secure as a government website. But that's definitely on our list to continue to grow with that in mind. And then education has been a very big question about when they start using, when they're in there with 3 or 5 documents, they say, okay, I've got this nursing diploma, and or I have my internal medicine degree, and now I need to maintain my continuing education. How do I do that? And so that's a big one too, making sure that you have those different education documents, which you can store under a tab just as easily as you store the other things, the other diplomas.
So is that a scalable option like that? Is that something you can bring on later, the education piece?
It's there already.
Oh, it's there already. Oh, okay. I
Mm-hmm.
thought this was one of the ones that people are asking for. Let's do this. So you're
Yeah,
already doing that. Oh, wow.
we took care of those things in the first year. We wanted to
Right.
get the high hitters that people really thought were important, and that those two, came up most of the time. And so we did install ways for you to organize that. And then, of course, we haven't talked about this, but, making sure that you could share it with anybody that you needed to. So
Mm,
whether it's a state association, or whether it's the credential manager at your hospital or your uh, clinic site, you can share it with everybody. And so
right.
initially we had some more um, not as open ways to share it, and so we went and fixed that. So um, we're now scaling to larger size companies. So we had it with just 5-person, 10-person kinds of companies to ensure
Mm,
that we were hitting all the parts that they wanted it to, as all the functions. And so now we're branching into bigger companies, and so they can help their staff get those documents more quickly. Because, I mean, it's an average, it's about $7,000 to $9,000 in just managing per person per credentials. So,
that's what it costs an institution to manage
mm-hmm,
that. Wow.
mm-hmm,
Wow. And this changes that dramatically.
mm-hmm,
Yeah. Wow, that's great. So that's the next step. That's going to large teams, and
mm-hmm.
it's ready for that now, or are you working on that right at the moment?
It
It's
is
ready.
ready for that
Oh, wow.
now. That has
Wow,
been
that's
our
great.
kind of our first half of the year goal. And so now we're starting to work into some more web app functions where you can deal with portals. So we've talked about paper and how that is there. And I'm in rural health, so I get it. There's lots of paper. But the other thing is, everyone has a portal. So everyone says, just fill the portal with all your documents. And so now we're working into where you can log into your ManageU on the computer and drag and drop into whichever portal you need to be able to do. And so currently you can send it, and that works 99% of the time.
Hmm.
Um, but we're just trying to keep the customers happy and make sure there's more options. So we're working on that, and increased there's going to be a dashboard for the administrator. So if a large facility with, say, 100 people signs up, so you have 100 people on there, there's creating a dashboard for the administrator. So just different tools for them to see that their customers are using it, that their healthcare providers, etc., are using it.
So, how long's it been now? Since the day that the idea kind of came to mind, and you started researching? How long has it been in the process?
A total of 3 years. So I spent the first year developing and not really telling anybody I was doing this, just to see if it would work, because I didn't trust, I didn't know that it was
Right, of
gonna,
course.
yeah. I mean, I had
So that
fear.
phase was mostly about just learning and understanding the technology, or this
Hmm.
what was out there. Were you kind of doing that kind of research as well?
Yes. And one of the specific examples about that research goes back to the function of it. I said that we were going to scan the documents, and we had tried a scanner where it would read the documents, for example, which uses optical character recognition.
Right.
And well, when we put the when we scanned diplomas specifically, all the scripted font did not come out. It was
Oh,
only
yeah, of course.
20% effective. And nothing's more annoying than fixing what already got scanned in incorrectly, right? We've all done that plenty. And
Right.
so, we spent, that's one of example of how we really tried to make sure, it wasn't perfect, but make sure that it was really close to doing what we wanted it to do effectively and efficiently. And so me and the developing team, we went through all those checks, and then moved into the next year when I'm like, okay, let's ask some people how they feel about it. So we moved into that, and then a big
Bit
step
of a
for.
beta test, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
for any app that's out there, I mean, or it was, I guess, 2 years ago, things are changing so quickly now. But you have to run through a rigorous test for the app stores, because they don't even want you to beta test things that are not, efficient or done.
Hmm.
So you do have to have a certain level of product before you're even giving it to your friends and family.
Right.
And so did that next.
And so, like, you don't have to worry about, like, you're not necessarily you're not certifying that these documents are have not been altered, or I mean, really, all you're providing people on a device that allows them to take a picture of their document,
Mm-hmm.
upload it, and accessible to other people. So, I mean, you don't have to go through anything like having to validate that um, diploma has not been altered in any way, shape, or form. Like, that's not your responsibility. That's just up to the individual user, how
Mm-hmm.
that their documents are true and accurate, and do they have to go through some sort of uh, validation process that way? Like, I agree that policies and procedures and waivers and everything else.
Uh-huh. Um, and it's a great question, and it's a big chunk of why it's so expensive. It's called prime source verification. And so when you get hired somewhere as a healthcare provider, the credentialing office prime source verifies those same documents.
Mm,
But um, maybe someday would be really great if we had a digital credential in general where they're prime source verified when they go in. And so I've been working on things that are familiar to that kind of concept around how to protect your documents at the highest level. The problem is it's not, people aren't going to pay for it yet. And it's really not there. What's
right.
happening is it's kind of like the OCR, which is optical character recognition, which has come really far since we did our initial beta test 2 years ago. And we're looking at implementing it possibly the end of this year, because the effectiveness has increased. And with AI, which you would be amiss if you were a developer not recognizing it's there. But with those different types of AI tools and scanners, and the ability to get these documents more secure, it hopefully is coming. What we're going to see that healthcare is going to have to do is go from A to H as opposed to A to B to C, because we're so far behind in this credentialing problem that it's going to take a big solution in order to fix it. And the last thing about the documents being encrypted or being prime source verified on their own, like you were asking about, is that they become huge. And so I, for example, when I graduated from business school, they sent me my diploma and they gave us a paper copy and then they sent us a digital one. Well, it broke my email. So, yeah, I had to go and like ask for permission for them to delete it so that I could then get my email back and say download it to a drive so that I could have it. So that would have been great on the day that I lost mine, but you can't be sending digitally encrypted documents. Say there's 20 on a typical credentialing
Right.
packet, and
Right.
one's your TB shot, which changes all the time. So, that's the thing is probably 3 or 5 or maybe 10 of my 40 documents are ones that don't change, that are about healthcare and, being who you say you are. But the other 30 change all the time and have to be sent all the time to different affiliations. So that's why, we're thinking about these new things and how to go, but we also don't, you know, we also need to wait in order to be able to get them to function and also to be able to be cost effective.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the key for people to want to use it. It has to be, well, they can justify the cost, but I mean, as long as that's what do they always say? As long as it costs about the same as a cup of coffee,
Right. That's
people can
exactly
relate,
it.
right?
Right.
Right.
That's exactly it. And, we've worked through this as like we've talked before, you and me. It's just we're working through it to make it so that people can afford to help themselves.
Yeah.
And, again, we want hospitals to help us do a better job at sending them documents. If we have them there where we can get them, or a tool at least to be able to say, hey, use this, we can do a better job. We want to do a great job.
Hmm.
Just need the tools.
Have you run into any pushbacks or skepticism or, I mean, that never happens when you're an entrepreneur, where people say, you're not going to succeed at this.
All the
Everyone's
time,
always
you
on
mean?
board.
Oh no, I have lots of people, like many people say, how many of you are doing this? And I'm like, it's just me. They're like, wow, this is a big problem. And I go, I know, but you guys haven't done anything about it. And, nobody else has made a huge effort. Of course, I have competitors and I want us all to succeed because, that means that we're actually helping people.
Yeah.
Um, the thing that is different about my app versus the ones I know about are that we're very general. I found that people were if there's too many boxes to fill out, people don't keep going. And so the big thing is that I attach expiration dates to documents. That's all. That's the difference between Dropbox and iCloud and Google Drive and Manage You, is you actually get reminders that things are going to expire, and everything's in one place, not 17,000 credential files across many drives. Um, and so, like you said, there's competitors and there's definitely naysayers on entrepreneurship. And in healthcare, you know, it's hard to get things, we're used to dealing with the FDA and, everybody and all of the CDC and many different letter organizations in order to go through and
Yeah.
get processes approved. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I'm just trying my best to help people one at a time, but at the same moment, it needs to scale, and it will, into bigger facilities so that it's helping those people communicate more clearly and quickly.
Yeah. It's a slow moving vehicle.
Yeah, but there's plenty of naysayers.
Oh, yeah. The world's not short of those.
No, I
They're
mean,
everywhere.
and in healthcare, everyone's like, do you have to start an IV, or do I have to take this medicine? So, It's kind of like I've already been primed for that too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Just a question. I don't know why I have this question, but so I'm going to upload my document that is one that expires, for example, that has a time limit on it. So,
Hmm.
say it's a year from now, I upload it and I set the time on it
Hmm.
for its expiry date. So that when I'm uploading it, I'm setting the time expiry, and that sets it, and then it automatically triggers the reminder, like, hey,
Hmm.
this is going to expire in 30 days, 10
Yes.
days, 5 days, 1 day, that kind of thing. Cool. That's
And
great. I mean,
you
man.
can test more than, so you said it's set for 30 days, but if it's
Yeah.
something high, so many documents, you have to do education, or they're very expensive, up thousands of dollars,
Oh,
etc.
wow.
And so you want to have more than one. And so
Sure.
you can set the more than ones, and then it's a email and a text notification. And here's another benefit that I've found that people really like about the fact that it's coming from one place. And so those emails are from Manage You. So instead of having to look for
Right.
Texas, Canada, Philippines, whatever shot record, it comes up as Manage You, so
Mm-hmm.
those next expirations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the other thing, like you said, if you're validating a document or putting in a new one, is you can now keep all of your documents for if you get audited. So
Oh,
somebody says, I'm going to audit you for the last 3 years of this certification period. I want to see all of your education. It's already there.
right.
So you can just click the documents and send them.
And there's a desktop version as well.
It's coming. That's what will be launched in the next few weeks. That's where we are
Oh,
with the
cool.
web app. Hmm.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Let's talk about you as an entrepreneur now. So you've had to adapt to a whole new environment, which is different from nursing. You're still working as a nurse, though. Yeah,
Hmm.
I know, and the CL and the what's the
Nurse
word?
nurse anesthetist,
I can never get that word. Um,
CRNA.
so you're still doing that. So that
Hmm.
you haven't quit your job yet. So you're transitioned from one career type to another in this process. What what have you learned about yourself? And what characteristics have you adopted in this new entrepreneur space for you? And you're kind of a solopreneur too, right?
Hmm.
You've been adding people to your team, but really it's you driving this train, right?
Yes. Um, it was my idea, and then I'm always looking for helpers and free advice. It doesn't hurt my feelings if somebody, I take it all in as something like they're my other team members. But I definitely, I mean, I've had a wide variety of amazing jobs and people I've worked with and mentors. And so just really trying to keep, you know, going back to that, and give myself grace that this is new, and I'm trying to figure out how to help people still, just like being a nurse and a nurse anesthetist. And, you know, deployed with international soldiers. I worked in DC at the White House. I had 3 years there. Just so many levels of making sure things are right all the time, or communicating across international lines, etc. And so just being patient with myself to know we're trying our best to make something great. And so that takes a lot of patience. Um, that is good for everybody. So been working, on that, and reaching out to people when you have questions, because I have, you know, hundreds every day. And then that's been a great tool for networking, which we like to talk about in healthcare, but we don't do it because we're all doing our job. And
Right.
so, kind of, that's been the bridge that's made me able to go from being a nurse anesthetist to being in the business world, is really, hey, I'm trying my best here. Can you tell me somebody that might be able to help me? And I'm in Nashville. And so just having so many great mentors here and feeling how that can be has encouraged me to keep going. It's been always important to me, but it definitely has gotten more important as this has transpired and grown.
Do you get a bit more attention from other female leaders or other female CEOs of their companies who are kind of like, you can do this? Do you find that from more your female colleagues?
Um, it's a good question, and it's a very good point, considering I spent 20 years in the Army and I'm in the most male dominated nursing profession. So I'm very used to being not, a very small portion of females. So watching them communicate on a civilian side, on a different capacity than
Mm-hmm.
I have learned, has been a wonderful way to learn new techniques. And so, um, we, I've had hundreds of military leadership classes, and they're very similar. So don't think that they're all, you know, learning how to be Patton or something, but we do a great job about communicating, and the importance of communication in healthcare is so high on the level of things we need to do. So that has been important. But watching the other female leaders as I've come out of the military has been very high on my importance list. And I would say that there are a few that have been amazing. And I do think that people that it is that there probably are more that reach out to me when I ask for help. Just if I'm just thinking back at my LinkedIn or my emails, one or two physicians across the country have taken Manage You and presented it at health tech conferences, which I really appreciate because they love the product, and getting it out to different audiences because I'm in
Mm-hmm.
the operating room doing anesthesia. And so, having that network has been good, has been very important. But there's an interesting fact out there, 2% of venture capital money goes to women founded businesses. And that's a pretty low number. And I'm not looking
Wow.
to go venture capital, but when you hear that, it just really puts an objective identifier on the numbers. And
Wow. That's a low
um,
number.
two, yeah,
2%.
we
That's
were
not
talking
very
about it
much.
yesterday. It's no. So,
Wow.
internally, digesting that and just saying, don't waste your time there is kind of where I've gone with that.
Well,
Um,
that's a good point. And you've gotten this far without having to do that.
right. And, so then when I talk to somebody else, another woman or another teammate, male, just understanding that that's probably not the best option. I don't want to be the 2.175% person
No.
because that effort is not going to be really worth it, especially as a solopreneur. But an interesting idea that for the app that would be nothing to do with being female would be if we could make it a national or an international credential, and then everybody would want to be on board. And so, showing the organization and making the platform so that it helps everybody would speak to any type of provider.
Mm-hmm. What would it take to get to that point?
Money. um Time.
Yeah,
So yeah, actually that's the long-term plan. The long-term plan
that's
is
the goal. Okay.
that
Yeah,
is the
there you
goal.
go.
And it's lofty, and a lot of people are probably laughing at me right now because I'm laughing at me. But I think that you know we should have done this years ago, and it should have been growing along with all sorts of document storage to make sure your providers are credentialed and are not fake.
Right.
And that's where I think something's going to happen, where we end up wanting to make sure that people are who they say they are.
Right.
And it's going to start with healthcare
Well, some have
because,
slipped through the cracks.
well, right, there's tons of podcasts out there
Absolutely.
about
There's
creepy
lots of
people.
stories that we don't hear about that never make them evening news, right? Of people
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be somebody they're not.
You got it, Heath.
Yeah.
But I think that that's the end result. And honestly, there, like I spoke of, storage and being able to share large volume documents. We're working to create an API or a connection between the credentialing person and the app so that they can just, it's a one button send. You don't even
Right.
have to open your email. Um, but all those things can happen in the next few months. The larger scale, you know, where you start to talk about AI and encrypted documents and wallets and how to share them, that's when the money will need to go. But
Mm-hmm.
it's going to get there really fast, so really quickly. So it'll just be, a matter of getting there.
Well, it'll get to the point too when somebody's coming to you saying, "I want to invest."
Mm-hmm.
I want to invest in this. I want to invest in you. And from what I've heard, that a lot of times that when investors are looking at opportunities like this, it isn't always about uh, the product. They often look for a decent product or something that's viable in the market, but they really focus their attention on the founder, the
Mm-hmm.
originator, the CEO, the person that brought this to life. Because what I've heard is that that's what will take it to the next level. Is
Mm-hmm.
somebody who is willing to take their dream uh, and let go of it to a certain extent. Because as soon as you got investors involved, you got extra decision makers and other
Right.
people to satisfy as far as what their goals are and what they want out of it in the end. So there is a stepping point where it's like, okay, it's mine until I get it across this line, and then I have to somewhat let go.
Right.
How do you feel you'll manage when you get to that stage?
How will I manage me? I
Manage
and
me. That's a new
right.
app.
I definitely am going to be able to let go of it. But to me, I want to see this succeed for healthcare. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many projects that we start and don't finish, or that people sell too early because they only halfway fix the problem.
Right.
And that's the deal with why I have, I don't know, 100 apps on my phone, is because they all do some part of something.
Right.
Um, and this is a medical productivity app, and there aren't many other ones out there. We have lots of static dictionaries and look up a drug and figure out a interaction, but this one's actually about you. And so one would be protecting the information. I'm not going to sell anybody's things. I
Mm-hmm.
want to make sure that it's very protected and it's at the highest levels that they can afford. Two, I want hospitals to get people onboarded more quickly. We don't like waiting to get a new job. Um, and be able to give them a product where they can do really well and quickly to get people safely credentialed, and then and then truly save people time and money, because that's where once I can see that it's working for that at scale, I would be willing to give it to the right helpers.
Well, you found a problem and you found a solution for it, and that's what they say is the core of a successful business. Is if you can find that and fix it, you've got a winning opportunity. So that's exciting. I'm exciting for you. I'm excited for you. This is it's going to I feel like it's going to go the right direction,
I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
it's been great to get to know all the different facets of the business side and, podcasting and help. I appreciate the Healthy Enterprise helping me share the idea because, all of your other podcast guests have been along the same lines where they want to fix something. And
Yeah,
this is a great place to say, I built that is the NPR version of it, right? There's
that's
just
right. Yeah.
other, but healthcare doesn't take the time to listen to each other and get it out there. So thank you for helping us.
You're very welcome. Well, it's a big system. The healthcare system is big, and it's been, in some ways operating many of these in the same ways for many decades. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just when something gets that large and and that heavy, it's hard to imagine how to fix it. But
Mm-hmm.
it just takes a couple of brave people to sort of say, well, I know enough about this. I can make this. I can make this change. I can help
And
take this across this other line.
yeah,
So
speak
yeah, and
up.
it just needs a few people. Yeah, exactly. So a brave hearts and souls to jump in as entrepreneurs and take this on. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thank you for sharing this with me and our listeners. And now, how can people find you? How can people
Mm-hmm.
access the app?
Well, it's on both app stores, so you can look it up in Apple App Store or Google Play. And then we have a website. It's manageyouapp.com. And then I'm always on LinkedIn. That's usually where I try to do the other socials, but I'm not as good at them. But LinkedIn, absolutely would love to hear from anybody that has a great idea about how we can be better and help you with saving time and money in your credentialing process.
Awesome. And then at some point, I'm going to have you back on here so you can tell us how this all succeeded and what the end of the story looks like.
I can't wait.
Yeah, me too. Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Heath.
You're
Bye.
very welcome. Okay, I thoroughly enjoyed meeting Sarah. What a lovely person. I hope the best for her. Sounds like a fantastic idea. And exactly that. She has found a niche problem in a large industry, and she's really honed in on something that I think it deserves some attention. And I think as soon as she hits that tipping point, it is going to take off like crazy. It's definitely in need. And her persistence and patience is really paying off. And I think that her career and her life as a nurse practitioner, especially as a nurse anesthetist. Whoa, I got that. I usually screw that word up. Is showing its value right here. Patience is the name of the game, and focused energy on a positive outcome. That's where she would have learned to do that in an industry called credentialing that is worth over $39 billion of significant waste. There's an opportunity there. So I hope Sarah makes it. Please check out her website, Manage You. And if you need this app, go get it. Give it a try. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Stay healthy and have a great day.